All right, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Dalles Chamber Community Affairs. Today we have an Oregon Representative. Jeff is here with us, and he is going to give us, hopefully, some insight or updates or what is happening on his neck of the woods. It's his short session right now, and it's always short session is fast, quick, and crazy busy and overwhelming with what they try to push through. So hopefully Jeff can give us a little bit of insight. But before we begin, I'm going to have you go around the room and introduce yourself and what organization you represent. So Jeff is well aware of who's on the screen as he is talking and addressing. So I'm going to start with Scott McKay.
Caught me there, Lisa. Well, good morning, everyone. Scott McKay. I am the community liaison for Circles of Care. Circles of Care is an initiative of Age Plus, which is a statewide nonprofit that Jeff may be aware of. They're working with other partners like AARP and folks to develop a multi-sector plan for services for older adults. That's just not involve public agencies, but also the business community and other sectors of the society that helps and works with older adults. Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you. Dave Peters.
Yeah, good morning, everybody. Dave Peters, Columbia Cascade Housing and Mid-Columbia Housing Authority. No real big updates other than Rand Roads moving forward in Hood River. And so we have a project we just purchased in White Salmon. So we're developing quite a few units right now. Thanks.
Thank you. Dan Spots.
Thank you, Lisa. Dan Spots, Economic Development Officer of the City of the Dalles. The Urban Renewal Board approved a large investment in the Blue Building. That's Tony Zoka's property on Washington and First and Washington. About $271,000 investment in a $3.8 million project. Tony is going to be turning that into commercial and residential units. So really a good move going forward on urban renewal. We'll have the Director of Oregon Aviation, Kenji Sakahara, visiting the regional airport at Dallesport in March, along with the team from Business Oregon. Also in March, Valerie, thank you very much for your work on that one. And on the Child Care Center and the college training hangar, we're moving forward with 2 requests for congressional funding. The outreach team will be taking these to Washington the first week of March. Child Care Center is renovation of Chenoweth Middle School into a Columbia Gorge Early Learning Center. And the college project, of course, is the training hangar at the regional airport and an expansion of the business park. So one of those is going through Senators Cantwell, Murray, Representative Newhouse. The other one going to the Oregon delegation, Senator Markley, Senator Wyden, and Congressman Pence. That's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Valerie, welcome. And would you like to introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. I'm Valerie Egan with Business Oregon, the state's economic development agency, and I'm a regional development officer serving Wasco, Hood River, and Sherman counties. And I'm about 4 months into my role now, so still kind of getting acquainted, but it's great to meet you all.
Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. Corliss.
Muted, Corliss.
Oops, you're muted, ma'am. There you go.
Hi, good morning, Corliss Marsh. I'm with Habitat for Humanity in the Senior Center and the Library and the Community College Foundation Board. So no new updates. Happy to listen to Jeff.
All right, thanks, Corliss. Brian?
Brian Tuck, just retired. Thank you.
Tanya?
There.
We all want to be there. Tanya, go ahead.
Tanya Remley, Northwest Natural.
Rob?
Rob Garrett, Mid-Columbia Senior Center. No real updates. We just have stuff going on all the time. So anyone wants to come by and visit, we're here almost 7 days a week, but definitely Monday through Friday, 9 to 4, 4:30. Come on down and see what's going on here. We'd love to have you.
As I always say, we have the most happening, community-minded senior center in the state, right here. So, Megan?
Good morning, Megan Thompson, Cascade Cherry Growers.
All right. Mike?
Good morning. I'm Mike Omeg. I'm a cherry orchardist in the Dalles.
Thank you for being here, Mike. Natalie, did you want to introduce yourself? I'm assuming she's part of your team, Jeff?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Go ahead.
She's multitasking, so we're going to skip over and we'll go right to Phil Brady. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Phil.
Good morning. This is Phil Brady, Wasco County Commissioner. I'm on the road here, so I probably will drop out when I hit that famous dead spot by Crates Point. And a couple things we're working on, trying to wrap up, get the final funding for the Resolution Center. And the county has decided we're going to continue take over operation of Kramer Field from Parks and Rec. The county already owns it, and we're working with the Little League teams to have a great season coming on this spring.
Great.
Thanks. And Representative Helfrich, I'll be interested to hear especially what's going on with the forest fire funding. That's been a tough project to crack.
Okay, thank you, Phil. We have one more user. It says iPhone 5. Do you wish to introduce yourself, or are you in a situation you don't have enough bandwidth?
Hi, Lisa. It's Stacy Cooper.
Oh, good morning, Stace.
Good morning. Cherry grower here in the Dalles. We wanted to jump on and see what's going on in the Capitol, and also let Jeff know that we are hosting OSHA and the RAC Advisory Committee, which is the OSHA Housing Committee, in March to take a tour of the camps.
Awesome. Stacy, can you send me that information too, so I'm aware of what's going on? That'd be great.
When we know more, we'll let you know.
Perfect. Thank you, ma'am. All right, Jeff, it is your turn, so I'm going to take it over, let you take over. But thank you so much for being here. We just appreciate being in touch with what's happening in Salem and what is happening in your area and what you are doing for Wasco County.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. So for those, I think everybody knows who I am, Jeff Helfrich, House District 52, State Representative. But more on the other part of my job is I am the Oregon House Republican leader. And that affords me the opportunity to sit in different spaces within the Capitol and hear what's going on and be a part of those conversations. And it is truly an honor to do that. Last Monday, we have been in elbows deep in Measure 110 discussions. You may see the Oregonian article that is not quite accurate. There were some people that decided they needed to give information out that's not really where it's at, and where we have leaned into, not just as a party, but we're listening to all Oregonians and what they want to see happen, and we work for them and we work for you. And so I would caution anybody to read too much into those articles. Those are ongoing negotiations. We have an outline of what that looks like, but we agreed what we call the four corners. That was the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, the Minority Leader for the Senate, Tim Knopp, and the Minority Leader for the House Republicans, myself, Senate Majority Lieber, and House Leader Fahey, to have that conversation. And those are very delicate negotiations. There's a lot of stuff in there that we're leaning into that we want to see happen. And so that's probably the biggest news that we have going on. And it's not a one size fit all. There is a multi-pronged approach. We want to make sure people get treatment, but we have to have that accountability portion. And with that has to come with funding. And that funding is needed to go directly to the counties and not go through OHA, because that is very hard to get that money out of there, as we've seen in past. And so there's a framework. We're going to see what the amendment looks like. People have been looking at it diligently. And for me personally, being a police officer for over 25 and a half years, and understanding that you want compassionate care, but you have to have a motivation for people to get that help. You just can't keep letting them travel down this road of destruction. And that's one component of that. I didn't want to have law enforcement not have the tools available that they would need to help. And then the other part of that is what the district attorneys needed and what that funding needed, that funding source needed. So there's a lot. There's, quite frankly, the devil's in the details, and we have this framework. We know what's going to be in there, but we have to actually see it, look at it, and get everybody's buy-off on it. So it's just not the headline, Oregon Democrats finalized deal on Measure 110. No, it was a bipartisan effort And this was, I think that did some injustice to what the work that we're doing down here and actually working together to solve Oregon's problems. So that said, there's a lot of Habitat for Humanity, what's going on with Oregon business. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. And if you could, Lisa, just send my staff a list who is there, because I know there's a lot of projects that people have come to my office to talk about funding for Habitat Humanity, the Gorge Resolution Center, just those things that we can get back to you, and then you can distribute. These are the bills that we're moving through. But I want to start off with the cherry growers. I know there was a meeting to talk about the housing and talk about the rulemaking early on in my tenure. Well, since I've been the rep both times, and there's some treatment that was done on the Zoom call where I don't believe our cherry growers were listened to and or were treated appropriately. And you had another group of people that were upset that somebody actually recognized that the rules that are being made can affect the bottom line and our communities, our cherry growers, because the government's putting so much pressure on them for certain things that really don't apply, and they're leaning into areas where it's not safety, it's more housing. It's what does housing mean, and what do these rules apply? You can't have two different standards. You can't have a house that you live in your home that has less regulation, less rules, more than what goes on in the camps and the seasonal worker areas. So those conversations are ongoing. I brought OSHA in themselves, and they had to do some explaining, and I expressed my concerns and leaned into that. And so I think a byproduct of that conversation is what you're seeing now, with people understanding that. I was very firm with that. I listened to people's concerns about that meeting, and I work for everybody in the state, but I really want to represent, obviously, Wasco, Hood River, Multnomah County, and the portions of the district. But as leader, I get a chance to sit there and really lean into different conversations. And so those are the things that I think in the Dalles on that sector of economic development, that economic driver that sits in the Dalles. I want to make sure, not that just the Dalles, but Hood River, but the rest of the growers in the state have a fair opportunity to get their voices heard, and we don't have overburdensome regulations that really hurt the industry. The other part, I know we talked about the Gorge Resolution Center. That is moving. So there's 3 tracks of dollars that are coming out. We have the housing track under the governor's bill that's coming out of the Senate. We have the Measure 110 fix, hopefully, that's coming out of the House. And there are 2 funding bills that are attached with that. You'll have the policy bill, then you'll have the funding bill that runs parallel with it. I have been fighting tooth and nail for the Columbia Gorge Resolution Center to get the dollars for that. I don't know how many dollars I can actually bring in there. There's only so much money we have, and I don't want to take, quite frankly, we need to have money for a rainy day fund. And I think we need to bolster those resources, because I think next biennium, we are going to see a downturn in the economy, and we won't have enough tax revenues coming in because people have left or they're just not there, that we still have to have an operational government and operational programs. And if we start overextending and continuing to build programs, that's a problem. So that bill is really looking at one-time expenditures that can help kickstart or help the shovel-ready projects on the mental health and drug treatment side of that. The other side is the housing, and there's the water project, infrastructure projects that's attached in there, and shovel-ready projects, where that's Rand Road that's been was mentioned, that's on the list. Where that sits on the list, we're still kind of negotiating, but I have to negotiate everything fairly, because everybody, throughout the state, every representative needs to have these issues. And so it's just, I will be very, I will try to get as much as we can and help as we can for, Wasco and the district, but also there's other districts that need that. So that is the dollars that are there for infrastructure projects and or just shovel ready, 80% AMI or below. There's a lot of things that go into that equation. So there are projects that list is moving, and the dollars are being moved around. So I'm actually we had conversations with the speaker yesterday about that. My team came in and talked with the speaker and looked at projects and see where we get a lean into and help stuff. And then that's just not only in those projects there, but then what we call the Christmas tree or the capital construction asks. And so we're looking at every project that we can. I know Cascade Locks has a power line issue that ODOT's coming in and redoing a bridge or an overpass, and they need the city to move the lines and move them back. And they're asking, hey, we don't have that kind of money. Is there a way we can get dollars to help offset the cost to put the power lines underground and just be done with it, which is a good solution to that for the trees and the weather and loss of power and power lines going down. So that's a good idea. I think that's a good investment. Bridge of the Gods is on that project though too. We have to have that, because if something happens to the Hood River Bridge or the Dalles Bridge, they have Cascade Locks, and we have to have all these bridges going across that Great Columbia River that we get to see all the time. And so there's a lot of projects that are out there. And like I said, I know there's Habitat for Humanity was looking for some dollars, and I think that's on some lists. I just don't know where that's at. I don't want to get ahead of myself and say there's the funding's going out the door when it's not finalized yet. And we'll know that in a couple of weeks. The other part that I think is the big thing that we're watching, these packages are going to be moving fast. You're going to see a lot of information coming out. And so if you do have questions, please reach out to my office. And it's a big thing to do. So we just know what's going on, what your thoughts are. I will try my hardest to get things done, but there's a priority list. And before I go much further, when I took the reins as the House Republican leader, that was in September. And so for those who know, Natalie was my chief of staff for the House district when I was the representatives. And then when I took on the larger role of House Republican leader, we moved different offices, and Natalie was promoted just because she's a solid person in that building. She has good relationships. She does good work, and she has been by my side from day one. And she's doing a tremendous job as the House Republican chief of staff. And that is a role that she's watching over the 25 members and helping them and their staff and getting policy going, moving different directions. And she was charged with hiring a great team that we have in place for policy people and communications people and our press secretary. And so without Natalie and without Natalie's help on this and her commitment to doing things, moving it forward, we wouldn't be as successful if it wasn't for Natalie. So I need to give her a lot of credit, because it's a team effort. It's not just one person. It's a team behind the scenes doing a lot of stuff, and I'm making sure they move that forward. So I just want to make sure they know Natalie's there, and she texted me that she's driving. She can't get off mute. So I wanted to let people know what her role in the office is and how it has changed, and her elevated status of running HRO, which is a big deal. And so the other part, I was listening to Dan Spatz about the projects out in the airport, and then the child care center, and hearing those projects move forward, because I was able to lean into those, myself and Senator Bonham lean into those projects early on in last session, and now watching those come to fruition and seeing that what we're doing, it may take a little while to get the wheels rolling, but watching those wheels move forward and getting these projects started and going, it's really good to see. And so those are important things to know, that we're working hard. I believe County Commissioner had a question about the wildfire funding. That is an ongoing conversation. There was 3 or 4 bills that were out there to address that. I believe one of them will be moving forward, but I can't comment one way or the other what has been decided, if anything. But I knew there's a House joint resolution that wanted to basically do away with state property tax, the limits that we had, and create a different funding source for public safety. And that's not the way to do it. We don't have a revenue problem. The state has a spending problem. We have to figure out how we're spending our dollars. And if our less dollars come in because of the economy downturn, we have to make sure we get back to the basics of what we need to do as a government and what we need to do for the district. I really like bringing these take homes back to the district, but we have to make sure when we're spending these dollars, they're really good investments. And so that's the biggest thing. And that's what kind of really guides me, is how are these investments? How does this push us forward? How does this solve either housing, mental health, the drug addiction crisis? Those are those biggest issues that are facing us. And so with that, I know there's more projects that are on that list to get funded. We're going to see what we can do. Again, we just have a very small dollar bucket to dip out of, because those ARPA dollars are no longer there. And I think people got to see those dollars coming in for the last few years, and a lot of projects got out. Now we're back down to what we need to do and what are these projects that we need to fund. So with that, I don't know if Natalie's able to get on or not if I missed something, but I can open it for questions if anybody has any.
Is there any questions in the room? Go ahead, Dan.
Jeff, as you mentioned, and I put it in the chat box a little bit earlier, if it weren't for you, Natalie, Daniel, John, the airport project would not be taking place. We would not have permission. We would not have direction to the Higher Education Coordinating Commission to recognize credit-based instruction taking place at the regional airport. It happened because of 482, and that wouldn't have happened if it weren't for you driving it through the House and Daniel driving it through the Senate. So thank you very much for that, and I just wanted to emphasize that. Natalie, I saw your note about the upcoming visits at the airport, and I will touch bases with Valerie to confirm details on the Business Oregon. That's an industrial recruitment siting visit where Business Oregon, thanks to Michael Held, has recognized the airport as open to Oregon prospectors. So we can be looking to recruit industrial prospects to the regional airport. And then Kenji Sakahara will be visiting also in March. Either his counterpart or someone else representing Washington State Aviation will also be down there. So things are really, really trucking at the airport. Jeff, there is a Representative Helfrich. There is a EPA grant called Community Change, and we are exploring that in conjunction with Wasco County for both the child care and possibly the Resolution Center. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself on that one. It's early exploration only, but that would be a significant source of federal funding. So we'll be pursuing that with the outreach team in DC, and we may be looking to you for support on if we go forward with the grant application. It's a big, complicated federal grant, so I don't want to oversell it at all. I have a very big note of caution there, but it is something we're aware of and exploring.
Great. And Dan, I kind of want to roll that back just a little bit. So for people who didn't know, when I had left office in 19, I got to work with you or had this idea because I was working with an aviation company and saw the need for the mechanics and how do you do that, because the Columbia Gorge Community College can look over the horizon and can be more nimble when it comes to gearing up for these work trades opportunities and certifications. And that was based upon the windmills, the windmill tech program that you had out there. And so Dan and I worked on that early on, and I still leveraged. I knew the levers to pull in Salem, get the right people in place. And so this has been a project that's been going on since 1819. And so it's for me, it's really neat to see that the work as just as a citizen that was in the legislative body, knew the levers and get people together and then lean into that as a legislator and move that forward. I'm pretty proud of that and the work that everybody did, because that showed that, you can do it. You can make a difference and get projects going. So.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Jeff.
This is Brian Tuck. I just want to say how much.
Hey, Brian, yes. Before you go, I have Mike who's been patiently waiting with his hand raised. So let's grab him and then we'll grab you. How's that? Mike, go ahead.
Yeah, I've got a question. If there's any chance of ag overtime being re-looked at. There's many states across the country that passed ag overtime before Oregon, and farm workers in those states are approaching about reworking that. Most recently in Washington. Do you have any comment on that we might be looking at as farmers that are extremely seasonal in nature, and we have a big peak of work, a big peak of intensity, and then we go back to normal. We aren't like many industries.
Mike, thanks for that question. That is one of the priorities that, me personally, because I do live in that space and I do represent, a large portion of those ag people like yourself in the district, but it's a statewide issue. And we have those conversations. Mark Owens is my deputy leader in the House, and he's a hay farmer out in Eastern Oregon. And so he and I have broad-based conversations about those, along with the Farm Bureau, the cherry growers, wheat growers. And so it's a yes. It wasn't going to be a short session conversation, because that's a lot of work up to get to that point. So I would venture to guess coming into 25, we're going to have more of those conversations and to lean into that. But it boils down to what the chamber wants. And if we don't have even representation in the chamber, it's hard to move that. But I do know my colleagues on the other side of the aisle that were skeptical of it, are seeing what's going on. Ricky Ruiz, Representative Ruiz, grew up in Hood River. His parents worked on the orchards, and he was opposed to that. He was adamantly like, this is not going to work. And he and I have robust conversations about that. And so he's a strategic partner of mine on the House floor because he lived that with his parents, and he actually helped get us that $5 million in that last housing package for some upgrades for your guys' workforce housing. And he understands the dynamics of what the ag overtime has done and how it's hurt the industry and how it just kind of a shuffling. And so short answer is yes. Are we able to move that a little bit different? I hope so, but it's all about the negotiations and getting facts of what we need to have happen to that for those dollars and what that would look like over time if we can move that threshold to hours, a higher threshold.
Thanks. I appreciate the info.
Okay, Brian, your turn now.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you for your support for the Resolution Center. Obviously, there's been a lot of really excellent work out here working with the houseless and those that are have addiction and mental health issues. The Resolution Center definitely will pick up on those folks who have maybe some additional problems and challenges to help them kind of get their lives back together. So thank you. I think it's going to be such an important part of the complete picture to help work with houseless, mental health, and addiction type issues here to get this, to help people move forward. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I went to Dalles and talked with Sheriff McGill was there, and I can't remember everybody that was sitting in the office. You had the county administrator and others that were actually just walked me through what that looked like in that hub and spoke, as they call it. You take a hub of a bicycle wheel, and you have the spokes that they go out to the tire to get the services that they need. And it in these 110 conversations, I just had very blunt conversations with the speaker and with the governor about what that Resolution Center means for the community. It's just not Wasco, because they do serve that broader area, the larger counties, and actually they can help with youth services too, because Portland was sending people out there. And so that has been my push and my lean into that. It's just not me, it's Senator Bonham, and it's Representative Greg Smith. He's my neighboring district buddy over there, and he's helping lean into that too, because he covers those counties that use that facility also, that can use that and help there. So it's a team effort, and I'm just glad I'm able to try to get that nudged across the finish line.
And I think, the issue is that to address the folks out there who really do have some serious problems that don't fit in with the existing infrastructure to help the houseless folks. And I think that this is going to be such an important part of that, to help pick up that segment of folks out there that really need some extra help. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Other questions? So Jeff, we kind of briefly, talked about some of the other agencies and some are the different types of industry, but what are you seeing out there that's either in support of or not in support of for our businesses? Where do you need our voice the most? Let me rephrase that. Where do you need your support from us so that we can speak up?
This session, I don't want to say is vanilla, but I think there's some stuff out there when it comes to some of the healthcare stuff that's coming down. And it's not really the space you play in, but there's some people that really want to change what healthcare and private practices look like. And I'm not sure the government leaning into that is the way to go. We are a society that is business oriented. And when the government starts really telling you what you can and can't do, when it can hurt the patients and hurt some stuff, those are hard things. But on the business side of the house, business and labor really has been, there hasn't been a lot coming out of business and labor or economic development that's, I think, is going to really have a major impact right now. The focus has been on those three areas that we talked about. But if you do see something, and if there's some help that you need, or there's bills that we can flag or that we have flagged, I'll have staff reach out and see if there's any help and pressure you can apply, because it does make a difference when you're able to get on and testify. And with technology like we're doing right now, I'm able to jump in and be here. Literally, I am at the YMCA, where I get up every morning at 4:30 in the morning, hit the YMCA, hit the gym at 5, and I couldn't make it at the Capitol in time, and the Capitol is literally across the street. So that's what's good about technology. And so I recognize that, because your voice on the screen does matter. You can hear those comments. Love it when people come in person. But you know what? Trying to be smarter. Gas is not cheap, and driving through Portland is a headache. And it is. I drive it. Not everybody can drive it, but now we're talking about. I think where you can really lean into is we're gonna start having this tolling conversation, and that tolling conversation is going to hurt business. And we're going to say, why is tolling in Portland going to hurt business? Well, because goods and services are going to travel along I-5, I-84, and 205, and they're going to want to toll those roads. And so that's going to be a cost driver for things going up. And so in 2017, in the grand bargain with the transportation package, that transportation package said, hey, look at tolling. Well, ODOT has taken that mantle and says, we are going to use tolling for a new funding source because we've done a good job of being stewards, better control of our emissions coming out of our vehicles. But then we are pushing electric vehicles, which is fine. I have an electric vehicle. I enjoy driving it. It's nice. I don't have to worry about the gas prices, but I'm not paying our fair share. And so how are people paying their fair share that are using these vehicles on the roads that aren't? And then the weight mile tax is another thing that people may not realize. That is how the state of Oregon taxes heavy haul trucks. It is in an imbalance. The trucking companies or long haulers have been being paid more than they're supposed to be by Constitution. So we're gonna have to recognize that. And so if you ever start hearing tolling conversation, oh, it's a Portland thing, it's not. It's going to affect the hub of Portland. That's where we have our ports. That's where trucking comes in and out. Those are those things I think that we may need to have you guys lean into and talk about the downstream or the ripple effects if that does come to fruition.
Okay, definitely. I will actually send you the bills that we are watching through the Oregon State Chamber regarding more of a business aspect. So I'll just send those to you, and it's a report that you can see what they're paying attention to and watching. Okay. And then when there's a call to action, I'll reach out to you on those aspects. Same with our audience here. We'll be sending out a call to action if there's need be. So
and when you do those calls to action, I know you can get on a website like fix measure 110 or don't fix measure 110. And those are those form emails that come out, and it's easy. You just put your name in, find your legislator, and hit send. Okay, so what that actually does is, depending on what one you sign up, they then capture your personal information, and that personal information then gets put in a database, and you start getting all these other emails, and you have to get the unsubscribe, or you start seeing these donation things. It's just what is. But just if you're able to make that personal email, like just send it personally, not from the website or that phone, those make a big difference. Those really do.
So I'll just reformat our call to actions and actually just include the emails that they need to send the information to without a form. So I know that OSCC is leaning that way also, not asking for a repeated form letter, so that people are being unique and writing their story and telling what the impact is going to be. So I'll be cautious about that and make sure I do that too, so that it's more helpful.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, Mr. Scott McKay, you have a question.
Just a comment. I'm probably more than a comment. Jeff, my focus has always been the human services. That's been my focus when I was county commissioner for 20 years. And now that I'm working with them, and I was a director of the Mid-Columbia Senior Center before Rob took over. And my focus has always been working with older adults. And I'm on the Senior Advisory Council for the CAPCO Area Agency on Aging. And what I've been finding is that some of the folks some of the folks we work with, well, Circles of Care connects volunteers with older adults who need some kind of periodic support. And several of the older adults, and one particularly that we're working with, helping support, she has dementia, and she's living in her home independently at this point in time. But we don't see that being a long-term solution. And she doesn't want to leave her house like most older adults don't. Yet there is funding for have someone to come in through OPI to provide, 6 hours of care, which I think will allow her to stay in her home and not have to go on Medicaid and assisted living on Medicaid. But there's not enough in-home caregivers. That's the big challenge we have, is to find those folks who are willing to come in and help support older adults. And I know that the state is trying to address that problem, and we really appreciate that. But it's just that there's a tremendous need out there, and the lack of in-home care providers, it's hard to address that need. And it's sad just to see someone who's struggling at home, in her home, without that support. So anything you can do to help um, create incentives for folks to get into the business of being in-home care providers would appreciate. Thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, I appreciate that comment. I know that's a big discussion, and that hits home to me personally. This time last year, my father got really disoriented, and I ended up having to take him. He had to go to the hospital when I was in Salem, and this was this week. This time period last year, it was back in Colorado, getting my dad out of the hospital and then getting him placed into assisted living, but then that transferred into a nursing home, and he was living on his own. And so trying to find those resources is important. If I could have kept him placed in his house, I think that would have been a lot easier. But he has taken it's been downhill really quick, and I've been trying to deal with that and everything else. But my wife's father also, it's come the same issues going on, and so it's not lost on me, and so it's really close to my heart. And so when I can lean into those and I can do that, I sure will try to. But it's you can't say I don't know what it's like, because I do, and it's hard to watch your parents age. All right, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm gonna go work for the people and get over to the Capitol.
Jeff, thank you again, and I will be keeping you up to date. And if anybody else has any questions, I can always funnel, or we do have his email on our website for you. So thank you so much for spending time with us and taking a moment out of your crazy day. We appreciate it. And then, like I said, if you need our support, just let us know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to switch the camera around so you can see exactly where I'm at, and you can see where I'm going to go walk to. This is how close the YMCA is I work out in goes to over there. And you can see
there you
go all the way up there, right?
All right. Yes.
There it is.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
All right. With that, is there any other questions or anything good for the order that we need to do, or we can just give you guys a few moments to have for your morning? Real quick, Valerie, did you get a date scheduled to be our guest?
Yeah, it was supposed to be today, but it was on my calendar, but it was great to hear Representative Helfrich speak.
Okay.
It's very worthwhile, but I can reschedule for another date or find another
All right.
one.
I apologize that we got you both, but when we can get Jeff, we'll take him. So
no, absolutely.
yeah, so we'll get you rescheduled. Definitely. We want to hear what you are doing and what we can do to support you, and all of those fun things for this area. So yes, we will definitely get you rescheduled. Yes, Scott.
I just want to say that I appreciate Jeff's approach to government and representing the state and the challenges that the state faces, and not get into the partisan bickering about the other side, but looking at ways to work with that other side, knowing that there are significant disagreements. Sometimes there's so much backbiting and all that I really appreciate Jeff's approach. And even though I may be a Democrat and disagree with some of his issues, I like the fact that he's willing to negotiate, listen, and try to find that common ground to serve the people of Oregon.
I agree, Scott. Thank you. Thanks. Any other ones? Any comments before we release you to your Thursday? If not, you guys have a fantastic day. Continue with our strong message of support local, and support local. Our businesses are really, really, really needing that support, and us not to take our dollars outside of our community. it does make a difference for each person to do that intentionally. So with that, also our banquet is next Thursday because we had to reschedule during that 18 inches of snowfall. And so it is next Thursday, the Distinguished Citizens Award Banquet. We do hope that you can come. Tickets are still on sale. Tomorrow's the deadline for that. And then we will also be returning to Redmond in a few more weeks to the Central Oregon Sportsman Show and be talking to a few thousand people there, just like we did last week in Portland, promoting our community. So please let us know what we can promote for you or how we can represent our community to that demographic. They love talking about the Dalles and the outdoor recreation, so we're looking at those aspects. So with that, thank you everyone, and you have a fantastic day.
All right.